Good morning, councillors and other officers that are in attendance at this meeting of the Lifelong Learning Executive Subcommittee of the 2nd of November. I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting. It's been a while since our last one, and there's quite a lot of business to get through and quite a lot of people to come in and out of the meeting. So I'd like to thank in advance the techie people who will hopefully make all this run as smoothly as possible. As I said, we've got a number of staff who will be present at today's meeting, and we'll introduce them as we proceed through the agenda. For now, can I ask Charlotte to do a roll call of members and advise of any apologies or substitutions, please?
Yes, if we can just indicate if you're present when I call your name. Obviously, we have Councillor Shires this morning. Do we have Councillor Duff?
Present.
Councillor Rebeck?
Present.
Councillor Sarwar?
Present.
And we'll assume we have apologies from Councillor McDade. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask if there's any declarations of interest in respect of the business on the agenda, and if you have any, can you put DI in the chat? Presume there's not any, which takes us on to the minutes of the exec sub of 27th of January, and therefore comment or approval. I've got one item in the minute, which is at point 2, where we had invited Education Scotland to attend a meeting, and can I ask if there's any update on this, please?
Yes, Councillor Shires, I could answer that.
Thanks, Sharon.
We did invite our new senior officer from Education Scotland to a future meeting. We haven't set a date for her yet because of COVID-19. We've obviously been just waiting for a suitable date. However, what we have done is given her the dates of all executive subcommittees, and I'll make sure that we get a response to find a suitable date for her to come.
That's very helpful. Thank you for that. So with that, can we approve the minutes, please?
Approved.
Thank you. Take it. Thank you very much. Which takes us on to item 4 on the agenda, the standards and quality in schools, learning communities and preschool centres daycare of children, which is report number 1 in your pack. As we've not met since January, we've got 2 reports on inspections today, and this first one is for the period to the end of March. So I remember attending the public meetings a way back in the day when we could go to actual public meetings. I would suggest that we consider appendices 3 and 4 of the report later on in the meeting, together with appendices 6 and 7 of report 2 on the summary of Education Scotland inspections and the summary of care inspectorate daycare of children's inspections, if everyone's happy with that. We have an approval for taking the agenda in that order.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'll now ask Sharon if she'll introduce the covering report, which you'll find on pages 7 to 18 of the agenda. Sharon will then answer any questions from members on its content, and you'll have the opportunity to ask questions. There'll be the usual questions first and then comments after. So I'll hand over to you, Sharon.
Thank you, convener. So as you've stated, we've actually got 2 reports here which cover all of the inspections that have taken place between August and March, and were not published or able to be presented to the last Lifelong Learning Committee on the 27th of January. We've also revamped the sections of the report somewhat, just to reflect the new models of inspection and the new standards that have now been published. So sections 1 and 2 of each report describes the process of inspections undertaken by both Education Scotland and the Care Inspectorate separately, and in the case of early learning and childcare, where they undertake joint inspections. Section 3 of each report provides key information of the published inspection reports within the timescales that we've just discussed. So section 4 of the report summarises PKC performance since August 2016 in Education Scotland inspections. And since 2016, we've seen 22 ELC inspections, 25 primary school inspections and 2 secondary school inspections, and 1 special school inspection, which is presented this morning. Performance since 2018 in the Care Inspectorate inspections has resulted in a total of 87 daycare establishments being inspected since 2018. The report also provides benchmarking against national and comparator data. And as you've suggested, Convener, what we would hope to do would be to present all of our 7 inspection reports this morning before taking questions on the performance summary. All service managers are here to introduce the reports for their sector and then to pass on to the quality improvement officers and head teachers for details of progress since the report was published and shared. So we're mindful of time and we want to really try and give elected members plenty of time for questions. We've tried to keep our comments brief and succinct, but all the service managers for each sector are here and myself to answer any questions along with head teachers and quality improvement officers. So if there are no questions on the body of the report, then I would ask the first report to be presented, which is a primary school report, and I would ask Jill Dugan to introduce that report.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Just to remind elected members that it's the usual Q or C in the chat box. I didn't mention that earlier. I'll hand over to Jill. Thanks.
Good morning. The first of our reports today is the inspection report for Breco Primary School and Nursery. The school was inspected in October 2019 and this was a joint inspection with Education Scotland and Care Inspectorate. It was a short model inspection with 2 quality indicators being evaluated. The report was published on the 17th of December 2019. At the time, the current head teacher, Susan Ross, was in an acting position. She is now permanent. The school roll was 51. This was a positive report with the following findings. For the school, Education Scotland found both 2.3 and 3.2 to be evaluated as good, and in the nursery, 2.3 and 3.2 were evaluated as very good. The Care Inspectorate found the quality of care and support to be very good and the quality of management and leadership to be good. Gillian Knox, School Quality Improvement Officer, and Susan Ross, Head Teacher, will take you through the report, and Annie Carr, Early Years Quality Improvement Officer, is also here if required for any questions. I'll hand over to Gillian. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill, and thank you, everyone. The strengths identified by the inspection team for Breco Primary and Nursery were the acting head teacher, staff, nursery practitioners, children work well together across the nursery and primary classes to create a productive and welcoming learning environment. The children have positive learning experiences and are friendly, polite and enthusiastic to learn. Together with nursery practitioners and school staff, the acting head teacher, now head teacher, established engaging and effective working relationships with the local community and partners, which enhance children's learning experiences. Young children in the nursery have high quality learning experiences. Nursery practitioners deliver interesting and interactive experiences which ensure children progress in their learning. And now I'd like to hand over to Susan Ross, who will discuss the next steps that the school have taken.
During our inspection, a key action for Breco School and Nursery was for us to continue to engage children and staff across the primary stages in developing consistent, high-quality approaches to learning and teaching. Staff were asked to provide more opportunities for children to lead their own learning, evaluate their own progress, and identify their next steps in learning. In response to this, we have developed a self-evaluation process where teachers record themselves teaching, analyse learner engagement and reflect on their practice. This in turn provides evidence to inform our next school improvement plan and leads to professional reading and improvement strategies for individual practitioners. We have reorganised our skills groups to provide open-ended challenges for our classes. Our pupils are actively taking responsibility for their learning by using a variety of skills such as creativity, working together and leadership. Practitioners have continued to use planning walls to encourage their pupils to be actively involved in their learning, know where they are and identify their next steps. Children are now more aware of where they are in their learning and what they need to improve and meet their next targets. Additionally, we're asked to continue to improve children's attainment and achievement further across the primary classes. This includes the effective use and understanding of assessment and monitoring and tracking of children's wider achievement and progress across all curricular areas. In response, we have developed a new writing resource that supports self-assessment. This enables children to take responsibility for their own learning in writing. They know where they have been successful and what they need to do to improve. We have continued in the use of our digital learning log as a feedback and communication tool between home and school. Our families report that this keeps them informed about their children's progress at school, promoting learning conversations at home. The use of curricular folders in our digital learning log enables practitioners to track progress in a variety of curricular areas. Our parents are aware of what children are learning and their next steps. Over time, this will support our learners to engage with their own learning journey. We monitor and track wider achievements through Twitter feeds and our digital learning logs. Our final action was to maintain children's progress and attainment in nursery. Our nursery continue their good practice of outdoor learning, where our learners lead their own learning, assess risks, are curious, make use of loose parts, and regularly engage in active learning and free flow play. Areas of good practice highlighted during inspection are very good communication between home and school. School and nursery staff continue to provide productive, nurturing and welcoming learning environment. Our learners are polite, enthusiastic and friendly, take pride in their school. In addition, strong relationships between staff, parents and local community continue to be effective and engaging. These relationships continue to enhance our children's learning experience. Finally, our nursery was highlighted as providing high quality learning experiences, ensuring progression in children's learning. Overall, we feel positive about our inspection outcome. The key actions were already identified through our self-evaluation as areas for improvement. We are continuing to work on these actions during this challenging period of time, and we are happy to take any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Can I ask elected members if you have any questions? Okay, I've one from Councillor Rebick, followed by Councillor Sarwar.
Thank you, convener, and good morning, Mrs. Ross. It seemed to me, listening to what you've said, but also when I read the report, that the communication seemed to be a key factor in it all, whether that was between staff and pupils, you know, in the nursery and the primary, and between staff and parents. It just struck me as that was a really positive thing. I just wonder if I'm right in that kind of conclusion, and if so, just a broad comment, if you wouldn't mind, as to how important you think that is. Thanks.
We do have excellent communications between staff, between our parents, our learners and the community. We are out in the playground first thing in the morning, talking to our learners, talking to our parents, and at the end of the school day as well. We also communicate via our school app and our digital learning logs, which were new to us in August 2019.
Thanks very much for that. I think I was probably trying not to say teamwork because it's always very cliched, but it does strike me that it probably is appropriate in this case. So, you know, thanks very much, basically, and keep up the good work if that's not patronising, but thank you.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Sarwar.
Thank you, Convener. And can I just first of all say congratulations on such a strong report, and it's really a pleasure to read, and you've obviously done really well, and congratulations on staying in the job in a permanent position. My question is about your digital learning log, and I just wondered if you could say a little bit more about that, a little bit more detail. I presume that's an app that you're using across the school, but I was just wondering, does that mean that pupils themselves are able to upload information, and if they're able to kind of access that themselves and are kind of taking ownership of their journey in that way. I'd be curious to know how it's working. Thanks.
Thank you. Our digital learning log was new to us. We started just in August 2019. It started off with communications between teachers and home. Our upper school, primary 6s and 7s, are confident now in recording their own learning and passing this on to parents at home, and our younger children are starting to do that also. It was something that HMIE were quite impressed by.
Thanks.
Thinking back, Mrs. Ross, to the public meeting, I remember there had been discussion at that point about the move to online resources. Little did we know at that point quite how important that was going to become. And one of the issues I remember being raised at the extremely well attended meeting at the school, and they're not always well attended, and I think that was real testament to the strength of the teamwork, as Councillor Ribbick would say, that existed within the school, the number of your staff who were at that meeting, and the very big enthusiasm of the parents. And one of the issues that parents raised at that point was their desire to have stability within the senior management team, leadership of the school, and so therefore we were delighted that you were appointed to that position. If I might ask, I see Councillor Duff's got a question, but I'll nip in before him. Outdoor learning, I realised, was a very important aspect of the Breco school experience, and I wondered if you could tell us a bit more about what particular specialities you offer at Breco. I know the sort of the outdoor, the area environment around the school is particularly conducive to the type of work you do, but I think there's some really significant things that you do differently there. If you could tell us a little bit about it.
Of course. So at least 3 times a term we take each class to our forest school, which is a short 15-minute walk to our site. In that site, we cover different areas of the curriculum in the outdoors, including numeracy and literacy. We also develop our skills of leadership and teamwork and creativity through lighting fires. We use Kelly kettles to make cups of tea, to make soup, and we also use tools as well. So 3 times a term, but also our nursery are outside most of the day, and both our nursery practitioners have continued in their CLPL in outdoor kindergarten work.
Thank you. Councillor Duff.
Thanks, Convener. I'm having a wee bit of problem accessing my papers at the moment, so apologies if I don't quite get the subject matter right. But I think in my notes, there's a couple of things. One, I noticed that the maximum number of nursery places are 10 and they're currently filled. Is there a kind of waiting list to get into the nursery, or are you managing to cope with the current requirements?
At present, yes, it is 10. We have a few children that are due to start with us in January, as some of our children at present have not taken up the full-time places. We don't have anybody else waiting at present.
Okay, thanks. I think I also noticed a comment somewhere in the report about the benefits of teaching punctuation. I'm always a wee bit of a pedantic about punctuation, I must admit. And how important is that then in the classroom?
Writing was on our school improvement plan during the session 2019-2020. It continues to be on our school improvement plan just now. We use different methods within our school to look at punctuation, whether it be through reading and particular lessons on punctuation as well.
Okay, thank you.
I can vouch for Councillor Duff being pedantic about his punctuation. Thank you very much, Mrs. Ross and Gillian, for answering those questions. Can I ask if elected members have any comments on, frankly, what is a fantastic report, and the whole school community should be extremely proud of it. Again, going back to Councillor Rebick, I mean, the teamwork of Team Breco Primary just shone through this report, and I think we would all want you to take back our congratulations to everybody. You know, the pupils who are obviously very proud of their school, their parents who are very supportive, and the staff and yourself who go the extra mile. But do we have any comments? I'm taking it they're all in agreement with what I've just said.
Agreed.
Agreed. So with that, Mrs. Ross, we'll put your ordeal over for Monday morning. I'm sure you've got plenty else to be getting on with, but we'd just like to thank you all at Breco Primary for all you've done. I know it's been a difficult period, and I'm sure your permanent appointment there has provided that stability to take the school forward that I know that parents were certainly seeking at the point that we visited. So we wish you all the best as you move forward. And thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Councillor Shires.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Convener. Will I just introduce the next?
You just take on over, Sharon, that'd be fine.
That's great, thank you very much. So the next report that we have is Perth Grammar School, and I'd like to introduce Donald McLeod, Acting Service Manager, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Sharon, and good morning. Perth Grammar School was inspected in November of 2019, with a report published on the 28th of January 2020. The most recent inspection prior to that of Perth Grammar School was in 2008. At the time of the inspection, the roll of Perth Grammar School was 904 young people. Perth Grammar School is made up of 11% of Scottish Index of Multiple Deprivation 1 and 2. The head teacher, Fiona Robertson, was appointed in 2016 and has since seen the change of the entire senior management team of Perth Grammar School, including the business manager and 3 deputy teachers. This was a short model inspection, and it looked at 2 quality indicators, the indicators of learning, teaching and assessment, and raising attainment and achievement. Learning, teaching and assessment was graded as satisfactory, and raising attainment and achievement was graded as weak. The national expectation for inspections is satisfactory, and the Perth Kinross expectation for inspections is good. The local authority is working closely with the school to bring about the improvements and recommendations from the inspection report. And I will ask David McCluskey, Acting Quality Improvement Officer for Perth Grammar School, to highlight the strengths from the inspection report and also the areas for improvement.
Thank you very much, Donald, and good morning, everyone. The following key strengths already identified by the school leadership and further evidenced in the extended learning and achievement visit which preceded the visit of Education Scotland of Perth Grammar School were validated. Most relationships are respectful across the school. Young people value their positive relationships with staff. Senior leaders have provided a range of professional learning activities to support the development of effective learning and teaching. An increasing range of courses and partners is supporting the different needs of young people. As a result, almost all young people go into a positive destination such as higher education, college or employment. The enhanced provision is providing high levels of targeted support for young people with more significant additional support needs. The school, working together with ECS, are now focused on the following areas for consideration. Improving approaches to ensuring equity for all learners. To support this, senior leaders should make better use of data to target interventions appropriately. This includes monitoring planned interventions regularly to ensure they have a desired impact. Raise attainment and achievement for all young people. To support this, improve approaches to assessing and monitoring young people's progress, particularly in S1 to S3. and further develop a shared understanding of high quality learning and teaching to improve the motivation and engagement of young people. Ensure appropriate challenge for all young people to maximise progress in their learning. I'll now hand over to Fiona Robertson, Head Teacher of Perth Grammar School, and she'll outline the progress that the school have made since the inspection and other planned actions that they'll be undertaking. Thank you.
Good morning, committee. Since our inspection report, we have made considerable headway in our action plans to date. One of our action points from inspection was to improve approaches to ensuring equity for all learners. Senior leaders have since developed a whole school data set where all the information is held in one place instead of across a variety of places. This is making essential information more accessible for teaching staff to respond to in order to address equity robustly. SLTs scrutinise specific information more regularly to drive timely interventions in supporting young people with key aspects such as attendance. A Pupil Care and Welfare Officer has recently been appointed through pupil equity funding to support this. Similarly, the school is working hard to reduce the number of exclusions by introducing a restorative support programme, and early indications, I'm pleased to say, are that this is proving successful. The school has employed a teacher of literacy and numeracy to support closed and identified attainment gaps in these responsibility of all areas. Also, teachers and support staff have been provided with literacy and numeracy training programmes to further target the support that we give to our learners. This learner support team has now more consistent overviews of the houses via their deputy head teacher links, and that's through a set area of focus, and they regularly review the provision of our young people, particularly those in at-risk categories. We have incorporated our response to raising attainment and achievement for all young people through what we have called our ambition agenda. And this reflects our actions around moderation, expectations on attendance itself, developing more varied learner journeys in terms of wider achievement and alternative pathways, alongside very ambitious targets. So, for example, we're increasing the percentage of young people achieving 5 at 3 and 5 at 5, as well as being data rich and ensuring that it is used more effectively. Across faculties, there has been increased planning in the broad general education to incorporate literacy, numeracy, health and wellbeing and skills. Whole school moderation teams have supported understanding the standard of literacy and numeracy across curricular areas. At whole school level, we have adopted what we've called a 360 approach to learning and teaching, emphasising the importance of this being of a higher quality. Whilst we had very clear whole school vision, values and motto, there remained a need to define our own interpretation of what constitutes high quality learning and teaching. Staff were initially engaged in this activity back at our February in-service day earlier this year, and the key piece of work has now been concluded itself with our learners fully engaged and involved in that. As a result, we will now be able to use our shared understanding of high quality learning and teaching in lesson visits and other self-evaluation procedures such as team teaching and people focus groups. We continue to embark on lesson visits as part of our faculty review process, and now we seek to develop lesson trios to model our experience from the inspection itself to ensure a consistent understanding and delivery of high quality learning and teaching. To support all young people maximising progress in their learning, teachers have an increasing focus on interventions for impact and are delivering better pace and challenge, as supported through our collegiate learning learning groups, which have clear objectives, including, for example, meeting learning needs, feedback and digital learning. In relation to the areas identified as good practice, we continue to seek to build on these strengths. For example, we remain determined to become a rights respecting school currently holding silver status to reflect and resonate the fact that most relationships are respectful across our learning community. And we have very strong partnership with outside providers from across a range of sectors, and have an excellent main strategic partnership with Robertson Group, one of only 6 in Scotland. And it is through these bonds and our can-do attitude as a team will help to ensure that we have high positive destination rates beyond school. And having received an new enhanced provision class year on year between 2017 and 2019, it was apt that this aspect of our school was highlighted as good practice. So as head teacher, I'm confident that the developments that I have explained, coupled with recent changes to senior and middle leadership, as well as an ongoing focus on developing teacher leadership, there exists now refreshed capacity in the school for continuous improvement. Overall, we welcome the outcomes from the inspection, and during this tough time in which we find ourselves, continue to make progress on our actions in preparation of a return visit. I'll welcome any questions from committee.
Thank you very much, Fiona. Do elected members have any questions? Councillor Rebick, please.
Thanks, convener, and good morning, Fiona. I have a couple, if you don't mind, and I have heard you speak briefly about the 360 approach before, but I confess as a layperson, I don't quite understand it. So I'm wondering if you can give me a little bit more detail on that. And also, I know you've employed somebody with PEF money, and again, if you can give me a little bit more detail on that, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. So the first thing there in terms of the 360 aspect, and this is really very much about us thinking of learning and teaching basically full circle. And obviously, as we know, that when it comes to self-evaluation, that self-evaluation starts with self. So that's really very much encouraging our teachers to make sure that they are seeking the feedback from our learners themselves, and for our learners to truly know what high quality learning looks like. So that does start from the reflection process, whether it be through professional development and review. Our commitment to professional learning and that sort of culture being really, really essential to ensuring that we drive forward learning and teaching at whole school level. And then, like I said as well, for that really essential part there about pupil participation in terms of the pupil voice. So learners always only know what they know, and it's really important that it sits with us as the adults to ensure that they know what, it fits very nicely with our ambition agenda as well, Councillor Rebick, with regards to what their expectations could be. So that's what we really mean by 360, and so it's an ongoing commitment in some ways, but in another sense of really raising the bar in effect with regards to what we expect with regards to learning and teaching. In relation to the other question, Councillor Rebick, could you just, in relation to the question there was with regards to the PEF money.
I know you've spent PEF money well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
and I think you've employed somebody, haven't you?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so we've actually employed, this is a recent development at the end of last term, we've employed a pupil care and welfare officer and a teacher of literacy and numeracy. So one of the aspects there, the pupil care and welfare officer will help to supplement the support that we already have with regards an attendance officer that we have in the school. So it's to really drive and secure the improvement that we're making with regards attendance. So potentially look at other interventions. So an example could be, for example, a sleep programme and so on through that aspect. So it's to give us a bit of extra capacity there, and when we actually track and look at our data with regards to pupil equity funding, we find there are correlations there. So we obviously need our young people in the building and to be here to take part in learning in order to ensure that we link that directly with attainment. And that's similar when we look at our literacy and numeracy stats. So whilst performance there has been overall positive, it's important that we look at specific trends for small numbers of our young people. So if we're looking at around 30 of our young people, for instance, in S1, who will be supported more as a result of the teacher of literacy and numeracy, for us to help close identified attainment gaps that we have there. And so that's the key role of that teacher of literacy and numeracy teacher moving forward. So they're on a fixed contract until the remainder of this year, in terms of June time 2021. So both those posts obviously been very welcome to help support both of those agenda, Councillor Rebick.
That's great. Thanks very much, Fiona. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Now I have Councillor Duff, followed by Councillor Sarwar.
Thanks, convener. Hi, Fiona. Thanks for coming along this morning. I noticed some comments in the report, obviously, about how to get the pupils from being passive participants to be more engaged in their own learning. And I was wondering if you could tell me a bit more about your youth philanthropy initiative.
Yeah.
How many of your pupils are involved in it? What does it involve? What kind of things do they get up to?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Councillor Duff. So in terms of the sort of, the high quality and the passive engaged comments, I think I'd be really keen to highlight that process that we've now been through with our young people in terms of giving them the voice to actually say this is what we believe high quality learning and teaching looks like. And I think that'll be really very much central, because we're in effect then offering all of us a framework to work from. Quite often we maybe sometimes in education see that as almost like a checklist in some ways, but to have a framework of saying we believe in positive relationships, we believe in being engaged in our learning, this is how we'll motivate ourselves, these sort of things, is being crucial. And we do indeed try to facilitate this sort of process through things like the YPI initiative. So YPI itself within Perth Grammar is something that we have all of our S2 pupils participating in, and that's part of our social studies faculty. This has been something now I think this will be going into our 5th year of supporting it within that year group. And what we find from that is it does obviously mean that they all engage in that process, so they all get to learn about and be involved with, and quite often local, is the key criteria there is about local charities benefiting from it, and quite often it's particularly helpful because it means that our young people get to know either an organisation that they may or may not have known, and quite often what we find it's something particularly poignant to them that's really meaningful. It's something to be impacted their own lives, or something to that effect. So it's really a very powerful thing. And then I think it's particularly for the winning team every year to see them receive the £3,000 that they're then able to in effect present as a result of that, and to be able to keep that engagement going with the set organisation is particularly meaningful to our young people, and they certainly value it. Is there anything else there, Councillor Duff? So that's really about YPI.
No, thank you. So it's my microphone off because my dog was barking in the background. But thank you, that was lovely.
Thank you.
We lost Councillor Sarwar, seems to disappear off my screen. I'll give Fiona a minute or two to get back in. I know that you've talked a bit about the changes that there have been in terms of the leadership team at the school, and I know that some of us on the screen that felt like we were in each other's company either in person prior to lockdown or virtually, as we went through the various different appointments panels, sessions, and I just wondered a little bit about the impact that these new members of your team have had in the school, Fiona, because I think that obviously all the changes happen. You had the inspection and then all the changes in these very unusual times, etc. So I can imagine it added up to either a very big challenge or a very big opportunity, one or the other. So it'd be just interesting to get a bit more of a feedback about the impact that change of team has had on the school in terms of delivering the recommendations that there were in the inspection report and as outlined by yourself.
Absolutely. Well, firstly, Councillor Shires, if it's appropriate for me to do so, then yeah, it's particularly meaningful to myself that the committee obviously had a really central role to play in those appointments. Certainly with regards to the inspection report itself, this does mean now that we have, I firmly believe we've got a renewed sense of innovation and a refreshed approach to leadership at Perth Grammar as a result of, in effect, a new senior leadership team, and that's really quite a rare thing to be able to happen. It's a superb opportunity as well for the school. And I think what it does mean is that we now have a senior leadership team all with very different skills, but also the ability to pull on those skills to ensure that we address our action plans appropriately. Now each deputy head teacher overviews one of the action plans each, and is given regular feedback, for instance, to staff, parents and so on, and that's something that we've absolutely committed to. I think that's been really helpful. So I think as well, from the appointments made, it also does mean that we have a much clearer set of roles and remits than we once had, and that's absolutely filtered to our middle leadership within the school as well, and increasingly seeing greater teacher leadership at whole school level. So therefore, in many ways, I believe in greater leadership capacity, which in many ways I do think has a rippling effect on the whole school. So yeah, absolutely, new team, and in many ways a really good opportunity to be basically put renewed vigour into the challenges and opportunities that are presented to us as a result of this report.
And if I could just ask one further question, I happened to notice on Twitter, I think it was last week, that you had a virtual parents evening, which seemed to have been a phenomenal undertaking. And obviously, in order to achieve the outcomes as laid out in all the different action plans, parental buy-in, engagement, etc., is obviously hugely important. And I just wondered if you could maybe give us a little bit of background around all of that and how you feel it's changed since the point of the inspection to now.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. Last week we held our first, it was our S4 parents evening last week, using Microsoft Teams. And it was, I think, during the day, and certainly in the build up to that, there was obviously, it was something brand new to everybody, but we had also in many ways obviously utilised Teams during lockdown, and so there was that balance to be had of having the confidence already inherited from that and taking that into our first parents evening. And so I was delighted to say that absolutely at the end of the evening, a number of staff had opted to still stay in school rather than do that from home. It's something obviously in the current climate they could do from home. But what a fantastic buzz we had, and the feedback that we have, the initial feedback questionnaire wise from parents and staff, it's been a really, really positive experience for everyone. It was certainly from an observer's perspective, what I saw all evening was a range of staff all smiling happily into the computers and quite often waving and everything like that. So there was a really positive feel to it, and that our parents actually have also said, or many of the comments have been along the lines of, they liked the idea of, if we all remember that time last week it was particularly foul weather, and so it was that bit of, I think, potentially higher engagement is what we are receiving in terms of early indications, because people aren't having to go back out of an evening and then to hang around the school to wait on appointments and things like that. I think it was also more efficient from everyone's perspective, because you can see in the lobby when someone's waiting to be admitted, so that does mean that we all stick to our timescales. There's the other aspect of our central aspect here of our young people being involved too. So we did find that more young people were sort of gathering around the computer to be part of that process, whereas maybe there was sometimes reticence about that happening when it was in person. So definitely moving forwards is a balance to be had there. But we do see this as a unique opportunity now to build on our parental engagement. Because we now have a different, in effect, a different way to engage, or certainly an additional way to do so. And that also supplements, last term we had held, for example, it's a slightly cheesy name, but we called it Tea with the Head Teacher sessions, whereby we had informal Microsoft Teams sessions with our parents, which again were overall really well attended, and we had greater engagement than what we would normally have through something like that in school. So certainly the ESPO Parents Evening, we've got another one this week, and we're truly looking forward to it. So it seems to be a really good way moving forwards. So I'm glad you spotted that on Twitter.
That's good. No, I was just, obviously I remember from the public meeting that we held at the school that, that was something that there was a real drive towards, was, to engaging a wider section of the parent body. So that's really good. Councillor Sarwar, I think we have you back in the meeting if you have your question.
Yeah, I'll just keep my video off in case that kicks me off again, but I think a few of my questions have already been asked. I did have one question about, do we know when a return visit might take place, given the current situation with COVID? Is there any plans in place for return visits? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Sauer. I'll answer that. Currently, Education Scotland have not given any indication when they are due to restart school inspections. All school inspections have been suspended. The current information that we have is that there may be an update in January, but there have been no date confirmed as yet for a return.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If no further questions from elected members, do we have any comments? Councillor Redbeck.
Thanks again, convener. And just very briefly, I know in Perth and Kinross, quite rightly, we have high standards for education. I think we, across the boards, we have high aspirations for our school pupils, and quite rightly. And I know in this inspection it did fall below that, but I do think, without searching for excuses just for the sake of searching for excuses, I do think there's reasons for that, and I think they've been identified by Mrs Robertson, and they've identified with the council, and I think we're already looking to rectify that. I know that we do have challenges around demographic in the area, and I do think that imaginative use of PEF money has already gone some way towards getting that better, and that's to be applauded. And I do think also that the movement of the senior staff, as you know, which you know about better than me, convener, the movement around senior staff has not helped, and I think that that's part of life, and it's part of school life, as well as it's part of life away from the school, and that's through no fault of anybody, and I don't think that has helped. And I think as often in these situations that by the time these reports come to this committee, there's a period of time gone by in which the school has put things in to make it better, and it's already improving. And I think there's anecdotal evidence to suggest that the school's getting back to where it should be already, and I'm sure if I looked hard enough there would be actual evidence for it. So it's just I think we as a committee we have to recognise that standards fell below where they should, but I think it's also equally important to recognise that those standards are getting back up to where they should be already, and so thanks very much to Mrs Robertson for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Breco. I agree completely with what you've just said, and I think actually this period of time that's elapsed between the inspection, the public meeting, and now, you know, has actually allowed us to get not quite your 360, Fiona, but you know, a bit more of a longer sort of run at the changes and the impact that they'll have within the school, which is really what we're all interested in seeing. So I agree with your comments, Councillor Rebick. I've got a comment from Councillor Duff.
Thanks, convener. Yeah, it's really just, I suppose, to echo what Councillor Reddick and yourself have said. I think from what we've heard this morning from Fiona, we can be confident, you know, that the school has turned the corner, and it will make progress as we expect. So thanks very much for all you've done so far with the inspection work, and as I say, I'm confident that you're heading in the right direction and that things will be turned around. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. I think Fiona, we just would ask you to take back our thanks to all your team, your new team, and your older members of, you know, not older, but you know what I mean, the more established members of staff within the school, and we wish you every success. These are challenging times for everyone, but we are really conscious that, you know, those of you that are leading in our schools are really the ones that are sort of firefighting constantly. We are in awe of everything that you all do, and we would ask that you take back our gratitude to the staff and our best wishes, and that we're right behind you and alongside you to deliver the changes that we all want to see delivered for the benefit of the young people at Perth Grammar School. So best wishes, Fiona, and everybody else at Perth Grammar School, and we look forward to seeing you in person soon. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, committee. Thank you.
And with that, can we agree to note the reports in that section before we move on to the next ones?
Agreed.
It's 10:20, so are we all happy just to continue for a bit longer and then we'll have a comfort break? Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that takes us on to section 5 of the agenda, and I'll hand back to Sharon.
Thank you, convener. And just before we move off, in relation to the comments about the inspection and Fiona Robertson, the head teacher of Perth Grammar School's report, what I would say is that absolutely, Councillor Reddick, it's the evaluations that we have that are below good really do fall below our expectations, and we understand that it hits everybody hard, and particularly the school staff, but also central staff too. And obviously I just want to reassure committee that we are looking very closely at the strengths that we're finding within our school estate in relation to what we do well. And I suppose a general comment to make would be that almost overwhelmingly irrespective of the gradings or the evaluations that schools get, what we do really well in Perth and Kinross is to have care for our children and young people, and without that I don't think much else can be achieved. So we do that very well. What we need to improve on is, as Fiona Robertson stated and Donald iterated, we need for a greater consistency in the quality of the experience for our children and young people, and that's pretty much across the board, and it's a national issue, which is why we've had a review of the broad general education and a real focus on consistency of assessment of achievement of a level. And where we've got challenging demographics, that's all the more important. So I suppose it's just to say that as a central team, we're really working hard with our schools and our school leaders to look at the ways that we need to improve and strengthen that approach. So I just wanted to say that before we moved on. Okay, so I can see that we've got everybody that we need for the next report. So the next report is for Letham Primary School. This is a follow-through report, and I would ask Jill Dugan just to introduce the team.
Thank you, Sharon. So Letham Primary School was inspected in September 2018, with the report being published in October 2018. The inspection team identified key areas for improvement and the need for a return visit within 18 months. This was to evaluate the progress of the school and the nursery. This return visit took place early in March 2020. It's a very positive report, and I'm going to ask Kim Ramsey, the Quality Improvement Officer for the school, and Nick Thompson, the head teacher of the school, to take you through the report. And as with our other reports, Annie Carr from the Early Years team, Quality Improvement Officer, is also here. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jill. So as Jill said, Letham Primary School were revisited on the 2nd of March 2020, and the purpose of that visit was to review progress against the areas for improvement identified in the school's full inspection, which was in September 2018. So I would like to share with you the key findings of Letham Primary School's revisit. So the inspection team, and quite importantly, the inspection team found that the nursery and the school had made very good progress in addressing all 4 key areas for improvement. They highlighted the strong and strategic leadership of the deputy in starting that journey, and then the very effective leadership of the head teacher, Nick, who took over in April 2019. They recognise that the head teacher and the deputy head teacher works very well together and are very well supported by an acting deputy and the centre leader in the nursery. There had been a relentless focus on ensuring high quality learning and teaching, which had led to greater consistency in learning and teaching and experiences that were better matched to meet the needs of learners. They found significant improvements in the levels of engagement, increased aspirations for all learners. They found that there's now a shared understanding of the main features of high quality learning and teaching. Calm, purposeful environment for learning was supporting self-regulation, and there was a strengthened focus on raising attainment, which had increased levels of attainment, particularly at the early stages. I just want to say as well, the lead inspector had contacted me afterwards and said that the team were so impressed with the very positive changes across the school. She said it was truly amazing what had been achieved, and that she had personally enjoyed every minute of the inspection, seeing the impact of the changes on the children and staff. So I'd now like to hand over to Nick Thompson, the head teacher, who will share with you the key improvement activities the school engaged in, which led to this significant improvement, and to outline what the next steps for the school are.
Thanks, Kim. Good morning, councillors. Yeah, it was a very nice report to get and feedback from HMI back in March. I'll just take you through some of the key actions that I think made the real difference over the last 18 months. I think it's worth saying it was a highly intensive programme of improvement work that the school and staff undertook, and that was started with Joe White, the acting head, and my deputy now, and then carried on when I came in April. All that work was focused through 3 action plans that we wrote to address the key points. And running through all 3 of those action plans, we included the early years and nursery within that. In terms of process, in a nutshell, it was that relentless focus on improvement. We were just doing the activities that we felt would really make a difference to learning, to teaching, and to attainment. It was very much working with staff to develop that collegiate approach and really giving staff responsibility and ownership for making those differences. We put a lot of time in there, time to review and evaluate the impact of the actions that we put in, and all the way through agree this is what works for the children at LEP, and this is what we're going to do. So in terms of quality of learning and teaching, some key points there. We revised the vision, aims and ethos of the school. As part of that work, we introduced a new positive relationships policy, and all of that gave us a real increased focus on learning with a really clear message that we were setting high expectations. As part of our work, we created the Letham Teaching and Learning Framework based on the PKC framework. And again, that gave us real consistency of an approach across the school. We developed our own planning and assessment framework, clear planning expectations, and our own effective marking and feedback toolkit. And again, all of that gave children a deeper understanding of what it is they're learning and the feedback that we were giving them. In terms of the attainment and achievement strategy, very much a targeted strategy to accelerate learning for P1 pupils, and planned approaches for raising attainment in literacy and numeracy and closing the gap for children right across the school. And from all of that, we did see real progress in attainment over the last 2 years in all areas. We had a really rigorous approach to tracking and use of data to set improvement targets, working with teachers on individual children and how they would accelerate progress. And that really gave teachers ownership of what they were doing in classrooms. And as part of that work, we really streamlined what we were doing in terms of our support and intervention and making sure what we were doing had an impact. In addressing the curriculum, we updated our curriculum rationale and framework and published that across the school with a real focus on learning, consistency and progression. We embedded learning pathways for reading, writing, maths and numeracy, moving on to creative subjects as well. And we bundled lots of experiences and outcomes to inform our planning and give kids a really rich, broad curriculum. Our next steps, now the report didn't explicitly give us next steps to work on, but we talked them through what we were planning in terms of our next steps. Teaching and learning, continue to set those high expectations, make learning relevant, enjoyable and fun. A real focus this year on developing the whole school digital learning strategy. In terms of attainment, very much maintain and build on the position we've reached so far and continue to build on improvements in attainment right from nursery into P1 and up to P7. And in terms of our curriculum, to really start to look at how we can enrich curriculum, look at the local use of partners. That work, as you might expect, has slightly been put on hold in terms of COVID, and also further develop the young workforce, developing the young workforce agenda across the school. So that's where we've got to as of now.
So we're happy to take any questions.
I'm back. My microphone went a bit haywire there. I was going to say that has to be the most modest statement, Mr. Thompson, of that was a very nice report to get. Because I think we all felt it was slightly more than a very nice report to get. We're absolutely thrilled to see it, and you know, all credit. I think actually the comments that Sharon made in relation to Perth Grammar School and about, you know, how we want to see, you know, when we get reports that fall below what we would have hoped we would have received, this evidence is, you know, how that relentless focus can actually deliver the change, and we would just thank you for that as a starting comment. But yeah, I like that, a very nice report to get. Can we ask if there's any questions from the elected members? I've got one there from Councillor Rebick.
Thanks again, convener, and good morning, Mr. Thompson. I do have a quick question. I'm going to preface it with a brief comment, if you'll indulge me, convener, please, because I know 2 years ago that the staff at Lethem Primary took the original report very badly, and I know I probably didn't help matters. I was mildly and what I hoped was appropriately critical at the time, but I know that the staff did take it really badly, and I think that most of the staff that were at Lethem Primary are still there, and I just want Mr. Thompson to comment on that, because I think it's to the credit of all the staff that this report's been turned round, and I can promise everybody here today that of all the reports that sit in front of us, this is the one that's most personal to me, and I'm genuinely absolutely delighted that it's been turned round. So it was really just a comment from Mr. Thompson. I think most of the staff that were disappointed 2 years ago, I hope are really happy now.
Thank you, Councillor. I think that's a really important point, because the work that's been been recognised in the report has come from pretty much completely the same staff team. There were some new staff that joined, the early years centre leader in particular, an acting deputy and now principal teacher, with a real focus on P1, P2 attainment. But the teaching staff and the support staff are pretty much all still in the school, and it is, I mean, it's an absolute credit to their work and absolutely the hard work and determination that they showed over that 18-month period. And they started very early in that process. I think you're absolutely right. They were devastated by the original report, but very quickly rolled the sleeves up and really engaged with the improvement agenda. And certainly by the time I came in April, yeah, that work was underway. I remember clearly, and I think some of you were, interviewed me when I came for the headship, and the work I talked about there, that this is what I thought would need to be in place. That work had been started already, and yeah, a huge amount of work took place and then was continued over that 18-month period. But yeah, I think it is particularly satisfying that a staff team, the same staff team, did turn that round.
Thanks, Mr. Thompson, much appreciated.
Do we have any further questions or comments? Councillor Rebick.
Thanks again, convener. I'll just be very brief in backing up what I've really already said, but I did sit in your interview panel, Mr. Thompson, and I don't take any credit for it. I'm not an educationalist, but it was very clear to everybody that sat in that panel that you were absolutely the man to take it forward, and I'm glad that that's been vindicated. I have also no doubt that you wouldn't have been able to do it without Joe White, who I know was there and still there, but was there and also took it very badly at the time 2 years ago. So I just absolutely and genuinely want to put my thanks on record to Mr. Thompson, to Joe White and all the staff that were there 2 years ago, that were really disappointed, but that have turned it around and credit where credit's due. It's just fantastic. So thanks very much to everybody involved in it.
Thank you. I'll pass that on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thompson. I think I would echo Councillor Rebec's comments. I think when we sit on these appointment committees, we're looking for a dynamic leadership, but also that compassionate leadership as well. But the fact that you've then gone on to outline next steps as well. I think it is always that the children are only at that stage of nursery, primary one, whatever, for that very short period of time, and the measures that we put in place to support them as they develop through each stage are so important. But it all boils down to leadership and the commitment of your whole school staff right the way through, from classroom assistants and everybody. I'm sure that whole team approach makes such a difference. So it was a very nice report to read. Thank you very much. And we wish everybody at Letham every success for the future. We look forward to watching you grow from here onwards, and we ask that you take back our thanks, and particularly those comments that Councillor Rebick made about the self-same staff that have delivered this very nice report, and we wish you all the best. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I could just move on to introduce the next report, and this is the report for Fairview Special Schools. Fairview is our only special school in Perth Kinross, although we have a number of enhanced provisions within our mainstream schools. Fairview is our only standalone special school and nursery. So I'd invite Fiona Mackay, Acting Service Manager, to introduce the team.
Thank you, Sharon, and good morning, councillors. Receiving this report, I think, has provided us with assurance of the quality of the education provision for our children and young people with additional support needs. The school was inspected in February 2020 by Education Scotland with a focus on both the primary school and nursery provision. Each were inspected against 2 quality indicators. At the time, the school roll was 66 and the nursery roll was 8. The report wasn't published until the 8th of June, and an online public meeting, of course, couldn't be held for quite some time, but was held to inform partners and stakeholders of the findings on the 20th of October this year. This was a positive report which provided the following findings. For the school, for quality indicator 2.3, learning, teaching and assessment, the grading was good, and for 3.2, the raising attainment and achievement, the grading was very good. For the nursery, the same indicator 2.3, learning, teaching and assessment, again the grading was good, and securing children's progress, grading was very good. So can I hand over to Lee Verdot, who's the head teacher, who will take you through the report, and Dorothy Henderson, the Inclusion Quality Improvement Officer, will also be here to support information. And Dorothy, do you want to provide some introduction at the beginning?
Yes, thank you very much, Fiona, for that. Yes, over the 3 days of the inspection in February, as Fiona said, where the team of inspectors looked at the quality of provision there through nursery, primary and secondary, I have to say that they found their time very enjoyable and the staff welcoming and positive. They saw children who are happy and enthusiastic, and the inspectors recognised the sense of family as a school community. The strengths then that were noted and found in the inspection report, as Fiona said, which was published later in that academic session, there were 3. The first being that the senior leadership team and staff who have created a caring and supportive school and nursery. Children and young people are happy and enthusiastic about their learning. They also noted the strength of opportunities for children and young people to develop their communication skills and to apply these skills in a range of relevant contexts. And finally, they noted the approaches to planning and tracking progress for individual learners and how this supports children and young people to attain and to achieve very well. So I'm delighted to pass over now to Lee Verdo as our head teacher, who will take forward further explanation of these and how the school then are looking to the development and follow-up. Lee.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I'm really happy to be here today and to share this report with you, as we're very, very proud of this report. There were two main points of action from the inspection report. The first of which was already work which was well in hand when the inspector came. So this action was to continue to develop high quality learning and teaching across the school and nursery, ensuring that all children and young people are appropriately challenged. We'll continue to work on this. This will be through our quality assurance calendar, which includes moderation of activities, levels of engagement, and our sharing of learning through our online learning app, Seesaw. We'll be sharing good practice across the whole school through classroom observations, both peer and senior management team. And we do plan to link in with other special schools. We're working on the creative curriculum, which is about making sure that our curriculum has pathways and is relevant and skills-based and provides challenge for all. This will be followed up through training at inset training days, making sure that there's a shared understanding of high quality, relevant and challenging learning. Despite recent challenges, we have still found that pupils are settled and engaged and happy in their learning, and we have plans to further measure this engagement as the academic year moves on. Recent questionnaires from parents have also highlighted this. Our focus for term 1 was very much on well-being. However, already in this new term, the senior management team have met with all teachers to look and discuss plans, IEPs, and the use of Seesaw, and all parents have also been contacted already by all teaching staff, and we are seeing progress in this area. The second action was to develop leadership across the school and nursery to support all staff to undertake leadership roles which focus on the leading of learning. Again, this has been the focus of our recent classroom observations and the subsequent professional dialogue with all staff. Again, inset training will provide support around leading learning, and again linking in with other schools to further develop this. All pupil support assistants at Fairview School operate at a TAS 4 level, and we have recently introduced 2 new TAS 5 roles which enable PSAs to deliver training and development to their peers and play a role in whole school development. The induction of all new staff gives staff the opportunity to and the skill set to be able to engage in leadership of learning very quickly. And this impact will be measured through observations, ERDs, professional dialogue with staff and future council visits. We always have great expectations for all our young people, and this is set out in our vision and values statement, which says that we support pupils to be the very best that they can be. This is always an ongoing focus. And as I said, the work in the creative curriculum focuses on tailored learning experiences for each individual within the school. Our new tracking document, which was highlighted as good practice, allows staff to build on prior learning and successes and to enhance already successful transition arrangements. Our school improvement plan also follows through with the outcomes and the actions outlined in the report, which focus on health and well-being, the development and tracking of curriculum pathways, and also maintaining positive family engagements as we recognise that relationships are key throughout our school. We are delighted with the areas of work highlighted in the inspection report around the senior leadership and staff creating a caring and supportive school, as this is absolutely what we are aiming to do, and opportunities for children and young people to develop their communication skill. And we are very proud of being a total communication school. And again, the approaches to planning and tracking progress. We are thrilled with this report. Thank you very much.
Happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. I dropped out just there at the end of your, I don't know what happened there, sorry. Do we have any questions for Mrs. Verdo? I'm glad to hear you say that you were very proud of the report, because you rightly should be. It's been a while since I've been at Fairview, but it's a very, very special environment, and I know how hard everyone works to deliver, you know, the very best outcomes they can for the young people that attend. No questions? Comments, Councillor Ribbick.
Thank you, Convener, and good morning, Lee. I will be very brief. It's something that I said at the meeting on the 20th of October, but I mean it, and it's important to say it again publicly. But getting it right for every child is a lofty and ambitious aspiration, but it's a worthy one, and one that we need to give 100% to try and achieve. And in Perth and Kinross, we can't do that without Fairview. It is critical to what we're trying to do in that regard, and it just makes this report even more impressive. So thank you very much.
You're mute, Councillor Shires.
Councillor Duff, do you have a question?
Sorry, Convener. Yeah, I don't know what's happening at my end. My chat box and my microphone seem to be acting up a wee bit at time. No, I was interested in the comment about the Pupil Council and the new library area that they had been involved in. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So our Pupil Council, they meet monthly at the moment, and we try and involve the Pupil Council in whole school projects which are relevant to them, so about their learning and about their school. So one of the recent activities was around about supporting the development of our library, which we'd managed to secure quite a lot of funding through the libraries fund, the school library fund. However, we wanted the pupils to have their say, so they were involved in discussions around the resources, the type of books that they wanted in the library, along with the actual design of the furniture. So they were given various options, and so it's very much their library. Yeah, so it was really great, actually. Lovely.
No, I'm sure they'd be very pleased with the outcome of that. That's great. Thank you.
If I may ask a question, you mentioned, Lee, about working with other special schools, and I noticed that in the report it talked about giving staff opportunities to undertake leadership roles to focus on leading learning, and I wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about how, you know, is there a network of staff who work in these very specialist environments? How does that all work?
Yeah, so there is a sharing good practice special network within Perth and Kinross. So that's open to all staff, and we meet quite regularly, and there's opportunities to share good practice across that network, and that's really helpful because you can find out from different settings what is happening, and we've actually taken part in that as well, so that we've shared some of the things that we're working on. Maybe go to another enhanced provision, for example, and see what they're working on, and that's open to all staff as well. That's within Perth and Kinross Council, so there's that network there. Out with less so, but I've kind of developed sort of links from my own experience. So I've worked with quite a number of schools in Edinburgh and also Midlothian, as well as Kings Park and Dundee, to look at what they're doing, and we have sent support staff from Fairview have been to Kings Park School as well to see what they were doing there, and likewise staff from here have been down to Oakland School in Edinburgh as well. So there is a network. It is developing. It's something that we would like to develop further when we're allowed to move about a little bit more. So, but you learn a lot from visiting other places and working with others. Yeah, definitely.
Sure. Sharon, you had a contribution to make there?
Yes, thank you, Convener. I just wanted to add to Lee's answer about networks, and also to say that, you know, to get the evaluations from a special school is not easy to get, and we don't have national comparisons because there are so few inspections within special schools, but certainly it is not an easy evaluation to get when Fairview have got goods and very goods, which is absolutely fantastic. In terms of the networks, that's the other issue in special education. It's making sure that you could get good national networks to share good practice. And we have asked Education Scotland to support Perth and Kinross within that inclusion agenda to provide some additional support to allow Lee and ourselves to engage much more fully in national comparisons and benchmarking and sharing of good practice. And they have agreed to that, and we have a meeting shortly to discuss how that might happen. There's also a review of ASL, and an important report has just been published, and there are numbers of recommendations within that report, one of which we're involved in within Perth and Kinross, which is the supporting of equality of recognition in ASN in relation to awards and qualifications. And Lee will be involved in supporting that national work as well because of the good practice that was present within Fairview.
That's excellent to hear. Very good. I see we've got a comment from Councillor McDade.
Thanks, Convener. I'm just going to leave my my camera off just because of the signal. I wanted just to congratulate Lee and her team, because having visited the school, I think it was last year when we didn't have the restrictions, I was incredibly impressed with the whole team, and I spent quite a long time there meeting different staff members and pupils, and it was incredibly impressive. And I think it's very difficult to achieve excellent standards in any school, but I think the additional challenges that the school presents, they have overcome in an incredible way that is incredibly supportive towards all of the staff and pupils. And I noted that you know, further staff development for leadership roles is one of the key next. I think that's quite a nice next step, essentially, to have come out of a report such as this. It shows that staff are already developed in their existing roles, and that now the aspiration is to move them on to higher leadership roles. So I think that's really positive. But I also, you know, obviously we want all of our staff to be happy in the roles that they have and feel supported. But when I was at the school, I actually genuinely felt that every member of staff was incredibly happy working in the school, doing the job they were doing, and that can't be said of everywhere you go, but actually I really did feel that that was the case in that school. So just a really big well done from my point of view.
Thank you.
I think we'd agree, anybody that's been to Fairview, you don't forget your visit. You come out feeling there's just something that gets to you there, and I think, you know, the staff and the quality and the commitment of those individuals is very, very special. So I definitely agree with you there, Councillor McDade. Do we have any further questions or comments, or can we agree to note the report? I think we are all in agreement that we're very proud of your report, and you should quite rightly be so. And we ask you to take back, because I know it must be very challenging for everybody at this time as much as any, you know, so we would just ask you to take back our thanks and best wishes to everybody at Fairview. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
If it's appropriate and everyone's okay, we take a 5-minute comfort break. Yep. Perfect. So I think we just stay in the meeting, but just put all our cameras and microphones on mute, etc. So that'd be us back here at 11 o'clock. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I was having some problems with my microphone. Don't know quite what was going on there. Thanks for stepping in, Sharon.
That's okay. I think we're all having a few problems this morning.
Yeah, it seemed to be running quite slow.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 11:01. Is everyone back in the meeting? Yep. Okay, so for all back, thank you for the brief recess. That takes us on to the North Murton Primary School inspection reports.
Okay, thank you, convener. So we have three more reports to present, the first of which is North Murton Primary School. This was a short model inspection, but it was in conjunction with both Education Scotland and the Care Inspectorate. So I'll ask Jill Dugan to introduce the school team, but both Jill Dugan and Bernadette Scott, the Service Manager for Early Years, are here to support the school team in any questions after they presented their reports. So I'll pass to Jill Dugan to introduce the report and the team.
Thank you, Sharon. The school was inspected in November 2019. It was an inspection of the school and the nursery, and as Sharon said, it was a joint inspection with Education Scotland and Care Inspectorate, with 2 quality indicators being evaluated by Education Scotland. The following evaluations were received by the school. 2.3 learning, teaching and assessment and 3.2 raising attainment and achievement were evaluated as weak. In the nursery, 2.3 was evaluated as satisfactory and 3.2 securing children's progress was evaluated as weak. The Care Inspectorate found the quality of care and support, quality of the environment to be good, and the quality of staffing, quality of management and leadership to be adequate. The report was published on 24th of March 2020. We recognise that these evaluations don't meet the standards expected and usually achieved in Perth and Kinross. At the time of the inspection, there had been a high turnover of staff. The head teacher, deputy head and principal teacher were in acting positions, and over 50% of the teaching staff were new to the school in August. Although an action plan was in place following the ELAV in September 2018, the high staff turnover led to a delay in the impact of the planned schedule. Staff in Education Services have been and continue to work closely with the school through focused action plans for improvement. I'll hand over to Gillian Knox, Quality Improvement Officer, and Annabelle Burns, now permanent head teacher of the school, to take you through the report. Thank you.
Many thanks, Jill. As you said, in November 2019, the inspection team found the following strengths in relationships, staff, families of school and the collegiate and collaborative working with staff and partner agencies to create a supportive learning environment across the school and nursery, and also the steps taken by senior leaders in identifying improvement priorities which relate directly to learning, teaching and assessment. I'd now like to hand over to Annabelle Burns to outline the progress the school have made and the next steps identified for improvement.
Good morning. The three areas that the school, nursery and education authority have continued to work together on are to improve the quality and consistency of learning and teaching across the school and nursery to ensure all children are fully engaged in their learning, to continue to develop effective approaches to assessment, moderation and the use of data across the school to inform next steps for learners, and in doing so improve professional judgments of children's progress and achievement. And 3, improve children's progress and attainment across the nursery and school. Following the inspection, there have been 3 significant changes to the senior leadership team, which has brought stability and will support a consistent approach and a vision for the nursery and school community. March 2020, appointment of head teacher. August 2020, appointment as centre leader for our nursery. And October 2020, we're in the process of appointing a deputy head teacher. Key drivers immediately following the inspection from January to October. Formulation of detailed and rigorous action plans for both nursery and school, informed by the inspection findings. This has been shared and owned by the whole staff team and is supporting a cohesive and consistent approach to improvements across our learning community. A collegiate programme of professional learning for all staff. This has involved a significant investment in professional literature, which has been supported by the introduction of book groups, as well as supporting increased and enriched professional discussion during planned activities and collaborative working. Collaboration with the Inspiring Schools programme, which has supported and developed teaching staff during 7 collegiate sessions. Staff have embraced this opportunity for professional development and have shown commitment and passion for increasing their teaching knowledge and skill set. The Inspiring Schools programme is aligned to incorporate our professional reading related to learning engagement, and this has had an immense impact on the overall ethos, igniting a strong focus on our nursery and school as a community of learning. Our centre leader has driven an in-depth programme of professional learning for all nursery staff to support the development of their pedagogy, skills and confidence. Launch of Looking at Learning has a child-centred approach to embrace pupil voice and support all learners to drive our improvements. This is complemented by a focused drive to raise the profile of Northwestern Primary within the community and beyond. Compilation of This Is How We Do It document, which underpins consistency of approach throughout both the school and nursery. And further development of the assessment calendar to ensure we are supporting and triangulating our data evidence. We are ensuring assessment is high on our agenda and driving appropriate support and interventions for all learners. Our immediate next steps are implement appropriate and robust planning which involves the learners and provides motivating and rich learning experiences. Development of a leadership and achievement framework which supports a rite of passage and will feature as part of a newly developed curriculum rationale. Embrace and grow pupil voice throughout the life and ethos of Northwestern Primary. Our children are our greatest asset and deserve us to set the highest expectations and standards. Continue to develop the effective approaches to assessment. Ensure the moderation cycle underpins our learning and teaching practice. And continue nursery programme of professional learning, focusing on quality interactions. Inspectors have highlighted the positive relationships across the staff, children and their families. The collegiate and collaborative working between staff and partner agencies to create a supportive learning environment, as well as the steps taken by senior leaders in identifying improvements prioritised, which relate directly to learning, teaching and assessment. These are strong foundations which will underpin our endeavour to make improvements and provide our children with a rich curriculum and opportunities for achievement.
Thank you. So we have a large team to support the head teacher in answering any questions. We recognise that there's a lot to talk about in this report, so very happy to take questions.
Do we have any questions for Mrs. Burns or Gillian Knox or Ben Scott? Councillor Rebick.
Thanks, convener. I think, like the grammar, it strikes me that the inconsistency in the senior leadership in the school has probably had a detrimental effect, and probably is a large factor in the poor report. But I don't want to, as a layperson, I don't want to just oversimplify that. So I'm just wondering if that is a fair reflection on my part or otherwise.
Who's answering that? Sharon?
Yes, please. Thank you, convener, and thank you for your question, Councillor Rebick. It would be fair to say that that has been a major factor in the challenges that the staff at North Murton Primary and Nursery have had in recent times. We have actually had some real challenges in gaining a permanent head teacher for North Murton. We advertised on 3 occasions in order to achieve a successful permanent appointment. And we failed to do so, and in fact we spoke to one of our most senior deputies who'd worked previously in North Murton to take on the job of acting head teacher in the interim arrangements while we continued to seek a permanent appointment. However, on top of that, we did lose some significant senior staff across the piece, and although the inspection took place in November, by the August, over 50% of the teaching staff had turned over, and we had some large numbers of new members of staff who hadn't worked in the school before, 2 of whom were probationers who were requiring quite a bit of support. That did have an impact. However, as you're well aware, we have to provide a consistent education for our children at all times. And while that was a factor, we recognised that there was work to do to make sure that should that situation ever come again, there's a consistent approach within the school that will carry a school through that large-scale change.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon. Councillor Duff and then Councillor Starwire.
Thanks, convener, and it's nice to speak to you again, Annabelle, after a recent interview process.
Yeah. Thank you for your support.
Not at all, though. It was really enjoyable. I very much enjoyed the experience. Yeah, I mean, obviously, as Councillor Rebick's commented already, I think the turnover of staff has had an impact here. But and whilst the inspected aspects of it have not had the desired result, no doubt there are still a lot of positive comments in the report. But I wanted to ask you about a pupil equity fund and how you are using it, or how you hope to use that to improve the situation here.
Well, as you'll have seen in the report, part of it was looking at digital technology to engage our learners. So we're using aspects of that just now to ensure that there's equity for children across the piece, complemented, of course, by the latest initiatives from the Scottish Government. So that will support the digital aspect. We have also used our Pupil Equity Fund to directly target children and families who, making sure that they've got everything that they need at home and at school to support their levels of engagement within school. We're also using it to have additional staff. I have a very talented principal teacher who is working 3 days for us at the moment, and we've engaged her for an additional day a week as a teacher with the process of looking at supporting interventions and driving assessment, as that's been a key part of our inspection plans. We sort of dubbed the 2 parts together, Councillor Duff, to ensure that we are supporting all learners. And we're also looking at going long term as we look across this next year as how despite the COVID restrictions, how we can ensure that there's opportunities for achievement and for all children and all learners using our Pupil Equity Fund.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Sarwar.
Thank you, Convener. I'll just keep my video off if that's okay, but apologies for not being able to almost be there in the digital person. So my question was really just about the ways that you've put things into place for the children taking ownership of their learning journeys, and I really appreciate how much you've talked about the professional development and the development of your staff, and obviously we can understand how important that is, that there wasn't that consistency before and that you've created this. I liked what you talked about, the community of your teaching staff. But I just wondered if you could say a little bit about how you've encouraged young learners to take ownership of their learning and helping them to become more fully engaged, as it's mentioned in the report.
Absolutely. Our learners are our greatest asset, and that's exactly where we should start in any good school, is with them and putting their voice out there. So Pupil Voice is high on the agenda. That has been through a promotion of messages from the head teacher at get-togethers. So they, throughout lockdown, went into children's homes and they ignite opportunities for children to share their ideas. So that might be that there's idea boxes in each classroom. We're developing our pupil council, that they've got leadership roles. We've reviewed our prefects and our house captains, and we're talking to the children all the time about that. We're also involving the children in developing an achievement framework, so they have a rite of passage throughout North Murton to build that love and that want to learn. So knowing in primary 1 you do this, and knowing in primary 2 you do that. So it might be opportunities for outdoor learning, it might be opportunities to go to the theatre. So really looking at the children in 360. We're doing a lot more surveys at the moment with the children, because obviously with COVID we've got a few restrictions. We're trying to think outside the box. So we're using Teams, we're using our Seesaw, and we're using surveys to ask the children what they would like within their group settings, with their different leadership opportunities, but also within their classrooms. We're reviewing planning, so that we're going right back to our learning. So we're involving children in the planning process. We're involving children what they would like to learn. Our weekly get-togethers all have themes about learning and how we'd like to get involved, how children like to learn. I've launched Looking at Learning, which has started with the senior leadership team and is moving into the children. So we are detectives of learning. So Pink Panther music goes on, the hats go on, go out with their magnifying glasses, and we're in every classroom. And we're doing that to support the children, to encourage them to come up with their ideas and tell us about their learning, how they're working in their learning and what they would like to learn, and how best they learn, so that we're really putting learning onto the agenda. And as part of the planning process, we're looking at the big questions and little questions, so that children, we're not doing learning to children, we're very much looking through that pedagogy, all that work with the teachers, as to how are we engaging children right in the whole process of learning, right from the start, what they would like to learn, how they're going to learn, and then sharing those successes and those achievements. So we're really celebrating with the children the learning and taking that home and beyond, because we would like North Murton to be much more about a learning community, and that's a big drive of ours as well. Does that answer you, Councillor?
Yeah, that's a great answer, thank you. Can I just follow up by asking, with the digital learning that we've obviously all had to do at high pace, has there been a particular platform that stood out to you as the most successful, or do you think that it's taken multiple platforms?
We've taken a sort of a process of going across the board, but the main bit we have is we had bought into Seesaw previously, and that has proved to be a really excellent platform for us to use, but we've used other platforms too. So I have grown the Twitter account for North Murton Primary School. I relaunched that in January, and that feeds directly into our school app. So even if our parents are not Twitter followers, they get every feed from that. So I'm using that into our news section as an aspect of celebration. I'm using the school app and sharing messages with parents at home and children every week as well. And during lockdown, staff put messages onto the 2 different platforms, so that we made sure that our families were getting strong messages and support from us in every direction. As well as that, we used phone calls, and I don't know if you followed our Twitter account, you'll know that we also linked up with the local businesses. So the co-op became a place where I had boards, information boxes. So if you weren't somebody who was so well connected digitally, I was still managing to reach you in a different way.
Brilliant, thank you, that's great.
I thoroughly enjoyed through lockdown the North Murton Twitter feed. I think it was one of the, a lot of schools did some really great stuff, but I think the North Murton one really stood out for you know, kind of the imaginative, the positivity, the, you know, the very much, you know, a school at the heart of its community approach. And I really would congratulate you if you were the lead tweeter there, Annabelle, because it really, you know, I'm up in Meagle, I'm miles away from you, but I think we all got this real sense of what was going on around North Murton Primary School. So it was a real example of how to do it really well. So congratulations on that. As a little observation. I noticed you talked about, in terms of next steps, about very robust planning and building the strong foundations so that the school can progress, and you're obviously confident that you're doing that. Can I ask about how you have you noticed an increase in parental engagement over the last, you know, I know it's been a year like no other, but do you feel that you really have got those foundations in place now with the parent body to take things forward too?
Absolutely. Feedback has been really very positive. We've had increased messages by email, which is not something that I've experienced before. Definitely the use of Seesaw, the teachers are and lockdown did do this for us, an increased relationship building, and I think also I am proactively selling the message of positivity of learning and the fact that our children have got so much to celebrate, and I'm trying to really reach out to our community and our parents through, as you said, the Twitter, our school app, and restarting a new website, so that I'm sort of thinking a 360-degree look at it. I've increased the number of phone calls I make to parents to give that opportunity of connection. And also I've had additionality. It started off with COVID, but I'm not going to take this away. We have staff on every gate around our school, and our senior leadership team and teachers are out before school and after school every day. So we're building those human connections as well as the connections digitally that we've talked about throughout this.
That's really important, isn't it? Yeah. Can I ask elected members if you've any comments to make? Councillor Rebick.
Thanks again, convener. Yes, I particularly like the looking and learning detectives bit in the Twitter. Actually, I find that very engaging, and I think I probably am just showing off that I pay attention to it maybe as well, to be fair. But on a serious note, I do think whilst the negative has been the movement in the senior leadership, I think it's also important to recognise the positives in the report, which Sharon Johnson touched upon in relation to grammar, that the love, the care and the compassion of the staff, it comes over as well, and of course that's a good starting point for attainment, so I think it's important that we recognise that as well. And I do think that as with Letham, I think in a year or two now that we have that senior leadership and the appropriate senior leadership in place, that we'll look back in a year or two with a much better report. I think that issue is slightly complicated with the merger, but it was really nice to see, I think it was your interview panel, Annabelle, that both parent councils were represented and engaged and working together, and I know that that's happening. So I just look forward to, you know, both the merger in a couple of years' time, and also the fact that I'm sure that we'll have a much better report to look forward to. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would agree with that, Councillor Rebick, that the two parents representing the two different parent councils were very engaged and committed to sort of driving things forward along with yourself. So that was very encouraging, and I don't underestimate the challenge of a new school build thrown into the mix of everything as well. But I'm quite sure you'll rise to that challenge, and we look forward to reading all about it on Twitter, no doubt. So if there's no further comments, then I would just ask that you take back, as we've said to other head teachers that have been here this morning that we don't underestimate the scale of the challenges that you're facing right now. And we very much appreciate the commitment and passion that we're seeing from all of our head teachers, and we wish all the staff, parents and pupils all the very best as you seek to build on this report, and look forward to following your progress.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Councillor Shires, and can I just reiterate the comments that you've made. I have to say we're absolutely delighted that we have gained Annabelle as a permanent head teacher. As you know, she's very committed to the community, and we all know that this report was a difficult one for us, because there are many of us who have been past members of staff at North Murton, and we know what a community it is. But Annabelle's drive and passion for bringing that community together, we're really confident that the school will move from strength to strength, and that the next year we can look forward to a really positive follow-through report. I'm sure of that. So thank you very much. If we could move on to our next report then, St Meadows Primary School, and this was a full model inspection report of St Meadows Primary School and Nursery. I'll pass on to Jill Dugan to introduce the school team.
Thank you, Shan. The full inspection took place in February 2020, and in the evaluations achieved by the school, they were found to be in 1.3 and 2.3 satisfactory, 3.1 and 3.2 were evaluated as good, and in the nursery, all 4 quality indicators were evaluated as good. The report was published on the 24th of March 2020. At the time of the inspection, the school roll was 127. I'll pass on to Anne Lemon, Quality Improvement Officer, and Jenny Campbell, the head teacher, to take you through their report. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill, and good morning. During the week of the inspection at St Meadows, inspectors conveyed how much they'd enjoyed their week, and during their visit they identified 4 main strengths. The first strength was the welcoming, caring and inclusive ethos, which is built upon positive relationships reflecting the school's vision and values. Secondly, in the nursery and the primary school, children are articulate, well-behaved and respectful of each other and adults. They're proud of their school and eager to learn. The next strength highlighted that the head teacher involves all staff in leading developments and encourages them to participate in relevant professional learning. And the final strength was related to the nursery, where there was recognition of practitioners' recent and ongoing changes to the nursery indoor and outdoor environment, which was supporting children to be creative and highly engage in their learning. I'm now going to hand over to Jenny Campbell, the head teacher, who's going to outline the areas of development identified by the inspection team, and she's going to describe the progress the school has made so far. Thank you very much. Jenny?
Thank you, Anne. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. We were pleased that the inspection team acknowledged the work we started as a result of our ELAV in October 2019. And we are working on the following 4 areas. The first area, we will be continuing to increase the pace of change, and number 2, continue to raise attainment by increasing challenge and pace of learning. So I'll discuss these 2 action points together. So the action that we've taken are we continue to engage in the Inspiring Schools program. So as part of this program, teachers are continuing to build on and improve their practice in differentiating, increasing challenge and pace of learning. This is resulting in a more consistent approach across the school. In order to embed teachers' knowledge and skills in differentiation, teachers are engaging in research-based practitioner inquiry studies to improve their practice. This has resulted in an improvement in the quality of learners' experiences and greater consistency in approach across the school. Focus on learner participation through surveys and pupil consultation at regular intervals throughout the year. This is ensuring that pupils' views are taken into account and planning is adapted to meet individual needs. For example, the school engaged pupils in sharing their views in relation to their online learning, and staff responded well to children's learning needs, adapting learning and teaching appropriately. Our planning of robust quality assurance procedures includes increased classroom observations and monitoring of pupil engagement. Staff are engaged in increased levels of professional dialogue with the senior leadership team and each other. The third area, they asked us to continue to develop progressive learning pathways across all curricular areas. And the action we've taken, and teachers have developed and are now implementing the use of progression pathways for numeracy and mathematics. This is ensuring clearer progression for all our learners across the school. We have undertaken significant professional learning, research and dialogue to develop our progression pathways, which suit the St Meadows context and ensure quality and relevant experiences for learners. We will now have progression pathways which clearly identify progression in pupils' learning and support teachers in their planning of learning across all curricular areas. And finally, action number 4, in the nursery, practitioners need to continue to review and refine systems for observing, planning, tracking and recording children's learning. And we will achieve this together. The early years staff, together with the principal teacher, have developed a clear nursery improvement plan and action plan. This has enabled staff to effectively track and monitor progress. They've worked together to develop a shared approach to improve the quality of learner observations, develop their IT skills in preparation for improved online learning and improved online communication with parents. Staff will be developing further effective tracking mechanisms to ensure appropriate action is taken to progress children's learning. In raising the bar, we are developing a consistent approach across the school in skills for learning, life and work. We are continuing to embed our St Meadows vision, values and aims in the life and ethos of the school. We are improving digital literacy skills in pupils and parents with all home learning activities now online. Learning through play is being developed by the teachers in Primary 1 and Primary 2-3. This allows the children to lead their own learning, which embeds and extends their learning through play. We have a hardworking and loyal staff who are dedicated to making improvements and positive changes for the benefit of all members of the St Meadows school community. We are confident our school will continue to develop and improve in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Campbell and Anne. Can I ask if there's any questions from elected members? None appearing in the chat box. Any comments from elected? Oh, Councillor Duff with a question.
Sorry, thanks, convener. Yeah, I was interested in the fact that there was a reference made to children being involved in a number of committees in the school, library, grounds and school improvement, I think. Just wondered if you could tell me a little bit more about their involvement in that, if they're, you know, they're keen to volunteer for these kind of things.
Yes, we are very the children are very involved in our committees. To start with our school improvement committee, the children actually, it's almost like an election process. The children write. In fact, what we have done now with COVID, the children have presented little videos as to why their peers should vote for them. So they have you know, put all the positive things and what they are going to do for the school. And we have run within the classes, the teachers have shown these videos, and then they have actually voted for their house captains and school improvement committee that way, which has been a different way of doing things, but it has also allowed the children to be a little bit more confident. They don't have to stand up in front of an audience. So you know, so it's been and the teachers were very impressed with the quality of the videos from the children. So that's one way of doing that. We're also very involved at the moment with our school grounds, and St Meadows is also involved with the community. We are a we were one of the first, I think, the first villages to become part of the word escapes me now. It's oh gosh, what are we? We are it'll come back, but it's to do with the environment and looking at making sure that we look after our plants and things around St Meadows. So children are speaking, you know, with Carson Bloom, been involved with the junior Carsonians, and so you know, the children are really keen to be part of to be on committees.
Great, thanks very much. Maybe there's one or two elected members who could come along and get some tips about getting elected and videos and that. Thank you.
So we're getting punctuation lessons from one of the other schools, and now we're getting video lessons from St Meadows. We'll be sorted by the end of this. I think that's really good to hear, Mrs. Campbell, about the sort of, you know, the wider community engagement of the school, because I certainly know that's the reputation in St Meadows is that the primary school is very much at the heart of the village, and that's, you know, that's definitely something we're always delighted to hear. I think the report definitely, you know, you got a real feeling from it about the strengths in the school, and I think it was encouraging that you talked about the building on the ELAV and, you know, the self-evaluation and awareness of the things that needed to be improved, and you know, a bit more pace around certain things, and you expanded on that at the public meeting that was held virtually a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember when it was, but a couple of weeks ago, and that's all very encouraging to hear. Do we have any comments from elected members or any other further questions? I'm not seeing any in the chat box. Councillor Rebick.
Thanks, Convener. Just very briefly, I know that the link between the school and the community still exists. I lived in the village actually in my early 20s, so I still have connections there. And I know anecdotally that link between school and community still exists, and it's still important, so it's to be commended. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that verification of what I've heard as well, Councillor Rebick. Can we just, oh, Mrs. Campbell's wanted to make a comment.
It's biodiversity was the word I was looking for. Sorry.
Thank you for that. Well, Mrs. Campbell, thank you for your time this morning. And as we've said to other head teachers this morning, we don't envy your job right now. I think St Meadows was one of the first ones that we spotted that had a class had to go off to self-isolate, and I know that you've taken on board the whole planning around continuing learning for young people when they find themselves in that situation, and we would just wish you all the very best as you build on this report, and ask that you take back our thanks and best wishes to all the staff, your team in the school, and the pupils who, I have to say, the strength of the pupils really shone through in this report, and their enthusiasm and embracing of their learning, and who knows, we may all come down to get some video lessons from them all in due course. So thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Convener. But last but not least is our final school inspection report for this committee, and that's the inspection report for Inchicore Primary School and Nursery. This was another full inspection report, and I will pass over to Jill Dugan to introduce the team.
Thank you. The inspection took place in December 2019, and the evaluations reached by Education Scotland for the school were in 1.3 leadership of change, very good. In 2.3, 3.1 and 3.2 the evaluations were good, and across all 4 quality indicators in the nursery the evaluations were also good. At the time of the inspection, the school roll was 222, and an acting deputy head teacher had been in post for, I think, about a week. The report was published on the 11th of February 2020, and I'll hand over to Anne Lemon, Quality Improvement Officer, and Jane Savage, the head teacher, to take you through their report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. Well, the inspection team expressed how delighted they were to have enjoyed such a successful school inspection. They thoroughly enjoyed their week's visit to Inchture. They found 4 key strengths of the school's work. Firstly, the children who are articulate, kind and take pride in their school. Older children are particularly confident, taking responsibilities to lead improvements in school. And this includes supporting health and well-being for younger children through the Feel Good Friday sessions. Secondly, they highlighted the highly effective head teacher who is passionate about leading an inclusive and welcoming school. She ensures that well-being is at the heart of the school and a child-centred approach is taken to all aspects of school life. As a result of senior leaders and staff's successful approaches to inclusion, equality and respect are all evident, and there is a caring and sensitive focus on individual needs. The next strength highlighted was the strong teamwork of enthusiastic staff supported by parents and partners from the Inchture community and beyond. Staff embrace professional learning and are empowered to take forward leadership of change and improvements in children's experiences. Parents and partners enhance experiences for children, which supports improved outcomes for learners. And the final strength that was emphasised, it really emphasised the changes to the nursery learning environment, which are helping children to make choices and become more independent in their learning. Practitioners implement approaches from professional learning positively to support children's different types of play. Their understanding of how young children learn and develop enhances support for all, including those children who are under 3 years of age. I'm now going to hand over to Jane Savage, who's going to discuss the areas for development outlined by the inspection team, and she's also going to discuss the progress that the school has made so far and the impact that this has had on learners at Inchture. So just over to you, Jane.
Thank you, Anne. If I could just point out, we actually got 2 very goods. We got a very good for health and wellbeing, equality and inclusion. I don't know whether it was an error in the typing, but it's something that we want to celebrate as well. So good morning, everybody. The team and I were really encouraged to see that HMI agreed. We were pleased as well with our accurate self-evaluation programme and agreed with us on our continued areas of priority that we'd agreed. The first of those being continue to raise attainment through increasing challenge in learning. This includes providing further opportunities for children to deepen their understanding of learning and apply their skills in relevant contexts. So on return after school closure, class teachers focused on aspects of literacy and numeracy children found challenging after learning remotely. This has ensured that children are on track to meet predictions of achievement pre-school closure. And all year groups are now back on track, with the exception of a small minority in primary 2 who need a little bit further support emotionally and in aspects of phonics learning within literacy. We've also agreed across the school stretch aims and targets for children that are designed to be challenging. Teacher Collegiate is planned around challenge, specifically higher order thinking skills. A planned baseline activity for children to gauge their understanding of challenge, and a baseline activity in numeracy, phonics, spelling and writing to measure progress and the impact of the work on challenge. A focus on areas of literacy and numeracy that children find challenging. A teacher review of tracking of a level that takes account of challenge and individual and class needs. Engagement of staff and pupils in our new feedback policy. Planning for a deeper understanding and application of skills for learning, life and work across the curriculum, and opportunities to display the application of these skills. The development of the use of an electronic profiling system to share achievements both in and out of school, and recognising children's efforts to demonstrate our school vision of striving to be the best we can be, both in and out of school, through working towards termly gold, silver and bronze awards. This has been reviewed with staff, pupils and parents, and a new system is now underway come August, and it will be reviewed again in January. Early signs are that the parents are engaging well in this and sharing achievements out with school. So the second area of action was to continue to develop the curriculum to extend progressive pathways across all curricular areas to support children's learning and progress. This includes extending moderation across the early level and beyond the school in line with national standards and expectations. So we continue to have a consistent use of our numeracy progression pathway, develop our own progression pathways in other aspects of literacy, which will start with reading and then we'll move on to spelling and writing. We are developing progression pathways across all curricular areas to ensure depth and progression in learning following recovery of learning periods after school closure. Consistent use of progression pathways to plan and help influence next steps in learning. Plan for progression to ensure staff and pupils are involved, focused and have clarity of what is progression and next steps are. And as agreed, as pointed out earlier, moderation opportunities across the school that includes nursery that will promote challenge in our very early levels. Looking at raising the bar, we're further engaging pupils in creative ways during COVID restrictions that will allow for responsibility and replace aspects of that can't be continued in the present climate, including a lot of online and digital efforts. And collegiate work with teachers to develop a shared understanding and increase expectations for all staff to review approaches to ensure challenging progression and learning. I think we're well placed to take our school forward in the present climate and beyond due to the commitment of our staff, pupils and our very supportive Parent Council. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognise the input of all of our community in our school improvement and their commitment to helping us reach where we are today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Happy to take questions.
Do we have any questions from elected members? It was a very detailed update there, Mrs. Savage. Thank you very much for that. I'm not seeing any questions appearing in the chat box, but there's been a bit of a delay on it this morning, so just give us a second. Any comments from elected members? There's a comment from Councillor Revick.
Thanks again, Convener. Just very briefly, and I think it's important that the committee recognise Mrs. Savage and her team's great work. Just because she's on last, I think it's even more important that we make that point, that it is appreciated and it's to be commended. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you were quite right to point out those two very goods, Mrs. Savage, and quite right to be. Oh, that's weird. Okay, am I on?
You're muted, Convener.
Okay, I think I'm back off unmute. If there's no further questions or comments, Mrs. Savage, I think having again been at the virtual public meeting and had the opportunity to hear your presentation as well, I think the awareness of where your school is and where you are and where you want to get to is it was very impressive to hear your very detailed, almost forensic analysis of. Sharon Johnson introduced us to the concept of what was it, contextual analysis, was that the expression? And I had to ask exactly what that meant, and then I think Mrs. Savage, you explained it in very great detail and put it into context for that we as lay people could perhaps understand, and I sort of very much appreciated that. It was very helpful just to get that understanding around one particular school was very helpful to us to see how gaps that had developed through the COVID period, but also how the school had used this period to develop the digital learning opportunities, etc. was really impressive. So we share your pride in your two very goods, and your excellent report, and we wish you all the very best as we go forward, and we look forward to hearing even better things from Institute Primary School, and we ask that you take our best wishes back to all your staff team, and all the parents and the pupils who just sound absolutely outstanding. They sound a very resilient, confident bunch, and we wish you all the very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Sharon, that takes us on to the appendices that we have to cover. So I'll hand over to you for that section.
Thank you, Convener. And I recognise that we've had a lot of inspection reports today. We've had 7 inspection reports, which has covered pretty much the full breadth of our service. We've had short model inspection reports, we've had short model joint inspection reports, follow-throughs, full inspection reports, and an inspection from special school. And we've also not presented any exception reports from the Care Inspectorate, but they're well documented within the appendices. So what we've seen is the commitment of our staff teams to ensuring that we do the best we can, and Appendix 6 and Appendix 7 show the performance summary of our education services across 2016. Appendix 6 deals with the Education Scotland summary, and you can see from that summary of inspections that within the authority we are performing very well against both our comparator authorities and against national quality indicators. And while we're very happy with that, again, represented in today's committee report, we have much work to do to make sure that we are meeting our own standards of at least good or better in every setting. We've done some analysis of our own in relation to early years and primary and secondary schools in relation to what we need to do to improve. And again, the inspection reports highlights what we need to do across many of our schools. So if we look at the quality indicators that are on page 69 and page 70, what we've got are comparisons across early years and primary, but not yet for secondary because there isn't enough data, or indeed for special. But what we know across all of our quality indicators within the work that we do as a quality improvement team is that we need to focus very much more on learning, teaching and assessment, and ensuring that we have a consistent high quality experience across all our learners, and that we have high ambition for all our learners no matter where they come from. So we're working hard on that with our head teachers. And the other 2 quality indicators that really go together are the self-evaluation for self-improvement and leadership of change. So we're working very hard to improve the leadership and the collegiate support of our school leaders through a range of approaches, through looking at data together across a group of schools or a family of schools. We've asked Bernadette Scott to take forward a renewed leadership programme to support that, and we're looking for opportunities to share practice across the piece more widely nationally through our networks. So these are the approaches that we're taking in terms of our Education Scotland approaches, and I'd maybe just pause there to take any questions before we moved on to the Care Inspectorate and focus on early years. There's a range of service managers who are here to take questions as well as myself.
Sorry, you're muted, Convener. I'll just go ahead and ask my question because I think that's so looking at the quality indicators for self-evaluation, for self-improvement, it's obviously not just ourselves that are struggling to get the numbers up there. So I'm just wondering if you're able to give some context as to why that particular indicator is perhaps lower than all the others.
Yeah, I will attempt to do that, Councillor Sarwar. I think what we've extrapolated from our own experience is that the self-evaluation for self-improvement is something that requires the whole school community, and we heard some very good examples of how that's done very well, where a whole community is involved in self-evaluation, and it's not just done at the end of the year, it's an ongoing process. Part of the reason that we think that it's a national issue is that the raised expectations in how good is our school for have yet to be fully understood by staff teams about what a good one looks like. And I also think that there's been some, I suppose, a lack of support from Education Scotland because of the inspection regime and the changes within education generally to support the training. So, for example, quality improvement officers at the centre have suffered over a few years for not being able to access some support through Education Scotland. One of the advantages of COVID has been that because the scrutiny teams have not been able to do inspections, they're now able to offer us some additional support. And as a local authority, that has been our first ask, is that they support us with looking at working with our head teachers and with our central officers to get a greater understanding of how we can strengthen that quality improvement indicator.
Thank you, that's really interesting. It's definitely one to watch. And as you say, getting that support going forwards. I have a second question, if that's okay.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering, it's always interesting to look at the comparator local authorities, but obviously in this situation, they're not actually that close to us in many ways. And so I was just wondering, out of interest, if you know which authority is the closest to us in terms of getting these good results.
Let's have a wee look. They change on a regular basis, I would say, and I suppose that what we tend to do is we look at our comparator authorities depending on what the strengths are. So, for instance, I know that Stirling, and I know Stirling quite well. Stirling is quite close to us in that they've got a rural and an urban conurbation. They've got a similar approach to early years, but they're smaller than us. Argyll and Bute, again, has a large rural area, but has got a much larger area. So it really depends very much on what we're looking at. There are no comparator authorities who are exactly like us, is I suppose the honest answer. And what we do is we try and look at best practice across our comparators to see how we compare with them.
Okay, thanks.
I think it will be very useful to have that representative from Education Scotland come to the committee so we can have the opportunity, and it may be that we ask committee services to construct the meeting, the time that's allocated in such a way that we can actually have these conversations, because I think we've all got quite a lot of questions around a lot of the stuff to do with the inspections. It'd be useful to get that clarification. It's been interesting, if I may make my comment on this, that to hear the shared language across a lot of the schools. Even just today, you're looking at a really broad range, but you can hear the similar approaches that are being taken, which is encouraging to hear, I suppose, in terms of that consistency. Do we have any other further questions or comments for Sharon on this section? No. We'll just move on.
Okay, thank you. So the last appendix that we would...
Sorry, Councillor Rowett just popped in the comment there.
Sorry,
that was belated. I was going to just keep quiet and ask at the end. It was just a very brief comment, convener, and thank you very much. I think that both these reports today, and indeed some of the material that's coming to lifelong learning on Wednesday, just underline the good place we're in Perth and Kinross in terms of education. I think it's important we acknowledge that across the political spectrum. I think just a couple of brief comments though around that. I think it's important because it's never perfect. The definition of the service means it will never be perfect. So I think it's important we feel that we're able to scrutinise legitimately where appropriate, and I think we do that. But I also think that there's no room to be complacent. I'm fairly confident in my 3.5 years as an elected member that we've never been complacent. I don't expect that to change anytime soon. But the third point goes back to what we're saying. I think it's important over the political spectrum, that we recognise that we're in a good place in Perth and Kinross, and that we accept that both within the council buildings or the virtual council buildings and out with as we go about our daily business. So it's important that we recognise that, I think. Thanks, Convener.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And sorry, I just noticed here that we need to agree to note that report before we move on. So can we agree that? Yep.
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you. Sorry, Sharon.
No, that's okay. I was just going to very briefly mention Appendix 7, and I suppose it's absolutely based on Councillor Rebick's previous comments about the fact that we are in a good place within our education system, but we can't be complacent. And so therefore we have an appendix here of our summary of care inspectorate inspections. As committee members know, there are many more of those. They're unannounced inspections, and they're complicated because they are part of the landscape of inspection for early learning and childcare, but only part of it because Education Scotland obviously do that too. So there are different quality indicators in terms of the national care standards, and our performance is detailed in Appendix 7 on pages 75, with some further detail of the actual inspections that have taken place since 2018 up until the present date. It's fair to say that we've seen a fall in some of the quality indicators, and in a couple of circumstances we've fallen below our comparator authorities and our national comparators under care inspectorate inspection reports. That's a source of concern for us. However, we've got very good, robust quality improvement and self-evaluation processes, and we know really very well what we need to do to improve. So I would perhaps just ask Bernadette Scott to take us through just a short summary of the actions that we're looking at to make sure that that is rectified. Can I just pass to Ben, please?
Yes, thanks, Sharon. Morning, everyone. I think it's probably afternoon. It's interesting to note that the care and support element is the one that we've not slipped back in, and that echoes what has been said throughout the morning in terms of that's what we do really well. In terms of the other evaluations, we have slipped over the last few years, and you'll know that the expansion of early learning and childcare has been huge for us. And so we have our national care standards that we pay attention to, but we've also had the introduction of the new national standard. So there's different things that we have to look at within early years, which potentially complicates matters for the practitioners and the leaders. That said, we don't want to slip back. We do have high ambition for our young people across Perth and Kinross in our early years settings. So we did spot the dip a couple of years back, and so we've started to make improvements to the way that we work things to ensure that in a year or 2 years' time, we will be back having the grades that we want in terms of the experiences. So in terms of the staff element, we've had a lot of changes into the early years over the last year, and to make sure that our staff are ready for the job that we expect them to do, we've created a new induction programme, which has gone online and is virtual at the moment, but we haven't shied away from that. We feel it's important to induct our new staff into what we expect in Perth and Kinross, and that's been a big piece of work that the staff have undertaken in the centre. We've also created what we're calling an online GLOW professional learning platform, and that ensures that all funded providers, whether local authority or private, have access to the same guidance, the same policies, and that's new for us. So again, that's something that will help with our staffing evaluation. And in terms of leadership and management, again, we have created a whole lot of different programmes to support the colleagues who are in leadership roles. We have a new leadership programme that's just about to go live virtually again this month for head teachers and partner provider managers, and that will be a joint exercise where they come together to look at all the different elements of leading an ELC setting, which would obviously include self-evaluation, which would need to be improved on also. We have a senior ECP programme, which we're in our 4th session of, to ensure that the people who are coming into these new roles actually have the skills and expertise that we need. And that's part of the fact that we've created a career structure in ELC, which was never there before. So that's just a small flavour of what we've been trying to achieve to address the beginnings of the dip. And we would hope that over the next few years, we would start to pull that back together again. I think it's worth noting, councillors, that we have now 108 funded providers across Perth and Kinross, local authority, private nurseries and childminders. So there's 108 different settings to quality assure, and we only have 10 of those that we're working with on action plans to ensure improvement and stay above that evaluation of good. So that's just a quick flavour of the work that we're doing at the centre to improve the experiences for young people across Perth and Kinross in ELC. I don't know if you want to ask me any further questions.
Do you have any questions? Any comments? Other than it's really appreciated, and you know, we know that the focus has been you know, that all through lockdown and everything, nobody's taken their eye off any balls. In fact, that I would say that it seems that people have used the time really well to create you know, online platforms, etc., to drive things forward, and that is very much appreciated, Ben.
Thank you.
So can we note these reports then? Is that all okay? And then move on to the next section on the agenda.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Over to you, Sharon.
Thank you. And I might just add, just as a final comment, that we have also invited the Care Inspectorate Senior Representative along, John Scouse, and we've given him the dates of executive subcommittees, so it might be useful also to have John do a presentation, particularly since the National Care Standards were published in July in the midst of lockdown, so we're now all just getting used to them.
Okay, that'd be very helpful.
Thank you. So it's the next report is actually, I'm going to pass over to Linda Richards, the Service Manager for Children, Young People and Families. This is a report from the Care Inspectorate on Woodlea. So I'll pass over to Linda Richards.
Hi, thanks Sharon, and morning or afternoon, it is afternoon now, beautiful afternoon, thankfully. So we are presenting the latest inspection report for Woodlea Cottage, and I'm joined today on the call by Rory Munro, who's the Senior Practitioner at Woodlea, and apologies from Dania, who's on holiday this week. So this inspection took place in March 2020, and committee will note that the inspection is our first inspection under the revised care standards. So the care standards reported in the previous report, the headings are different and the standards underneath each of these headings are different. So it's extremely pleasing that because it also then makes us think about we're offering a different kind of measure to the staff group. So it's extremely pleasing that this inspection gained 2 very goods. Very positive comments, committee will note within the report, and very complimentary about our Pride and Joy, which is about the care and support that children and young people receive at Woodlea, and no requirements or recommendations to be taken forward. I'm going to pass over to Rory, and then at the end of that, and Rory's just going to give you a brief summary of the activities that have been taking place since March and how the service has managed over the last few months, and then any questions we'd be happy to take. Okay, thank Rory.
You. Good morning, committee. A lockdown in March, there was a shock to everybody, to be honest. So we had to take a little breather. We took a week to think about what we needed to do, respond to government recommendations, get plans in place and adjust everything that we were doing at the time. Unfortunately, a lot of it had to go away. So from April, we were providing evening and day respite to some families who were really needed it and couldn't have done without it. That went on and expanded into families as they became under more and more pressure. They came to the social work services, or they called us to say they were struggling, so we were then able to bring them in and adjust and adapt to needs as they arose with different families. That increased up to August the 17th, when we restarted our overnight provision, Mondays and Tuesdays, and we still provided the evening and day support for the rest of the week. From September the 7th, we've been open for overnight respite for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and we provide evening respite to families on a Friday evening up till 8 p.m. That's allowed us to provide all families that have been assessed as needing residential respite with at least some support for the families and the children that we are looking after. We're proud of that fact. It's been a difficult journey, as it has been for everybody who's providing care services and education, but we are where we are, and we feel that we're doing a very positive job on the back of a report that seems a long time away now. That's where we are. Really, any questions, I'm glad to take them.
Thank you, Rory. Thank you, Linda. Any questions? No. Any comments? Councillor Rebick.
Thanks again, convener, and I will be brief. And although these comments are duplicating what I said about Fairview, they're nonetheless meant just as sincerely, and it is about getting it right for every child, albeit in this case in a very different way, but nonetheless it's just as important too. So it's just to recognise that and commend it, and Rory and his staff should be very proud of themselves, as he suggested. So thanks very much.
Can't disagree with any of that, Councillor Rebick. Councillor Duff, and then Councillor McDade.
Thanks, convener. Just a brief one. I thought this was an excellent report. It was very heartwarming. It was lovely to read the comments, about the kind of loving, compassionate, caring environment, and to, to hear the reactions of the children and the parents to the service that Woodley provides them. So well done, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Councillor McDade.
Yes, just to join in the chorus here, very much similar comments, having visited Woodley, and again spent I think a whole afternoon there with the team. It was quite a eye-opening experience, and they do a tremendous amount of work, and I think from memory they're a very long-standing team in this area, albeit not always been in that location, and they're a very experienced team. So just I think another really positive part of Perth Kinross Education's and Children's Services system, really, that is something that we really managed to do well, and that team does a tremendous job on behalf of all of us, and appreciated by the families that use it. And just to come in with my thanks for all their hard work, because having been in some of these situations, these are not easy jobs at all, and these people make it look like easy jobs. So a fantastic result for the team. So well done.
Absolutely. I think Linda Richards used the expression of pride and joy in the care and support that they provide, and I think that anyone that's been to Woodley, really, that is exactly what you get when you walk through the door. And I can't imagine how challenging it has been for some of the families that you that you support over the last period. I think, you know, we've all found it tough, but I think people that have, you know, caring responsibilities for youngsters in these situations, doubly tough. So to know that they've got the backup and support of your teams is just fantastic, and we would just ask that you take that back to everybody, and note that Danya's having a bit of a week off, and I'm sure you've all greatly valued any time that you've had off over the last while. So thank you very much for delivering that pride and joy yet again in another report. There's quite a volume of them, and we really do appreciate all your efforts, and ask that you take that back to everybody at Woodley. Thank you very much.
Thank you, convener. We will do, and thanks for all your positive comments, committee.
Well, thanks to you for your hard work. You make our job a lot easier. So yes, thank you very much. So can we agree to? On you go, Linda. Rory.
Saying Rory and his team.
Yep. Yep. And I hope we're not just saying these words, Rory. We really genuinely mean it. So please take that back. So can we?
It's really good to know that we do have all the support from councillors. We always have had, and that continues. So we're appreciative of that also.
Yeah. Good. Good. So it's a very nice way to end a rather lengthy morning. If we can agree to note this report.
Agreed.
With great pleasure, we agree to note this report.
Absolutely.
Back to you, Sharon. Is that us? We come to the end of our morning. So thanks everybody for your participation. We've had the full gamut of schools and settings and everything this morning, and hopefully our next meeting we won't have quite so much on the agenda. So thank you very much to everybody who's participated this morning. Thank you.